It's about 7:30 in the morning, and the first thing that I want to accomplish is harvesting all of our herbs because we need to restock up this summer. And I've noticed that the oregano is flowering, which it's never done that before because I've never waited this long to harvest. It's never gotten to this point, so we've got to get over there. I'm starting by chopping all of these high bits down. So oregano is nice in the fact here that it does work kind of like a ground cover, but I don't want it to be a ground cover. We're gonna cut this way, way back. I brought a big basket today because I knew we're gonna fill this puppy up, probably with just herbs. There are right ways to cut your herbs. However, there's not really a wrong way. I mean, at least when it comes to oregano. See how tall and bushy this is? This is actually, each one of these stems will flop over onto the ground and create roots all along its stems, and it will just kind of keep spreading, and I don't want that. I want lots of oregano. We use a lot of oregano. However, I don't want it to take over this whole garden bed, which it seems to be trying to do. If you grab it on its edge, and you pull it back a bit, that will help kind of stop it from expanding. But really, you need to kind of catch it before it expands past the part that you want it to. And I'm chopping it right back to the bottom, really. And it doesn't matter. It will grow back. And no, it doesn't look pretty now, but it will just grow back again, so that's fine. I have 2 more oregano plants that I need to harvest from. We're gonna harvest all the oregano first because I already have a full basket. We're just gonna keep it all together and we're gonna bring it into the house. We're gonna start dehydrating it, and then we're gonna have to see how much space we have left for sage. There's also chamomile behind the oregano. I have some rosemary. I don't know. But we need to get this oregano done. So you may be asking yourself why I'm not leaving any for fresh eating. I don't typically have oregano fresh in my recipes. I typically dehydrate it and just use it that way. It's a little bit easier. When it comes to things like your parsley, your basil, your coriander, I always pick those fresh. We typically have them growing out in the garden well, at least in the summertime, we have all 3. The other ones I tend to dry and just grab out of the cabinet and use. Now that I have my giant mountain of oregano, we're gonna run inside really quick, put this all in the dehydrator and see how much room we have left for the other things. If you are interested in that dehydrator, I'll put a link for it in the description box below. I love this because it's so big. We do have another dehydrator, but I prefer this one because it holds so much stuff. And I think there may, don't quote me on this, there may be one with even more racks, but I love this. When I dehydrate my herbs, I do not rinse them off, but I do pick out any of the other weeds that might be in there if I find any leaves or anything. But other than that, I just scrunch them all together on this shelf. And there will be little creepy crawlies that are in them. That's fine. Once you dehydrate them, they won't be there anymore. I really pack the dehydrator full. It does take significantly longer to dehydrate the herbs this way, but when you got things to put in there, you just gotta squeeze it in and it will be fine. We've got a little praying mantis in here. We'll let him outside. I'm gonna finish getting these herbs into the dehydrator and we gotta get back outside. So I just filled both of my dehydrators with just oregano. Plus I was able to put some aside for a tincture, but we're gonna have to move on from harvesting at the minute because I don't have any room in my dehydrator. So we're gonna start with this bed. In this bed, all of my paste tomatoes have died. I've been pulling the tomatoes when they have been just starting to blush and letting them ripen in on the table because the birds have been getting to them because I haven't covered them. I am going to pull these tomatoes. I do have more tomatoes to go into this space. There's a couple issues with what I'm going to do, so don't follow my lead with this one. One is that they are indeterminate tomatoes, which means they're going to just keep growing taller and taller, and all I have to support them are these tomato cages, which they're going to, I mean, if they grow and grow well, they're going to grow well past what I have with these tomato cages. The second issue is that these tomatoes died from disease, and now I'm just putting tomatoes straight back in here, so they will probably also get diseased. But we're just gonna try it out and see how it goes. I wasn't planning on doing a second round of tomatoes, so if we do get tomatoes from the second round, I'll be happy, and if not, then we don't. I'm gonna leave the marigolds, but I'm gonna clear the tomatoes out. If they have any tomatoes still on them, I'll pop them to the side. We'll try and see if they'll ripen inside. The biggest tomato I've gotten from this patch this year. And I was going to pick it last night because it was starting to blush ever so slightly, and I thought, no, I'll give it overnight. It will be able to ripen a little bit more, and I'll pick it tomorrow morning before the birds can get to it. Ah, these birds, man. Oh my heavens. I think I've let this pathway get a little bit out of control, don't you? Oh my goodness. All right, let's try and get some of these weeds out of here so I can at least like walk down here. I've been avoiding walking down here, and I just need to clear it out. You know who hasn't been afraid to walk down here? All of the birds to eat my blueberries. Oh boy, we've got this grown in here. I do not want bindweed in here, that's for sure. Get this out. That came out very easily, which is strange. Oh, this is all mint. We can save that. But we can't dehydrate it today. I can hang it upside down. It will start to dry. Okay, that's not perfect, but it's certainly a whole lot better than it was. At least I can walk through there now. I've gotten a little sidetracked because as I was bringing the weeds into that big pile, I noticed that we have quite a few large zucchinis that need to be picked. So I'm gonna pick those first. I'm gonna get, I think actually there's some peppers I need to pick as well. I'm gonna get those into the house. Then we're gonna come out and plant tomatoes, I think. So long as I don't feel like it's too hot out here and they won't survive, because it is getting a little bit later now. Well, at least the sun is getting higher in the sky. I'm getting warmer. So if it ends up being too hot for the tomatoes right now, I might plant those tonight and then, or put it off for another day. And we'll do some other stuff around here that doesn't involve planting. But I've got this extra large zucchini in here that needs picking off of this tiny little plant. Then I spied this one down by all those pumpkins and the peppers. Look at this. Oh my God, this is huge. This is, I think, only the second Coco Zell zucchini I've gotten this year though. So this plant isn't putting off very much, but I've obviously left it where it's been big enough to give us a good harvest. It's hard for me to see, but down in here, these zucchinis have been putting off like second little runners going out. And I have that one out there, but I'm not gonna pick that one yet. We'll let that one grow into another giant zucchini like I've apparently been letting them do. Honestly, we have 3 zucchinis in the fridge at the minute, like big ones. I'm picking those 2, and I can see another one down here that's big. We had zucchini in our dinner last night. We've had zucchini in many dinners lately. I have been making tons of zucchini recipes. We are overrun with zucchinis and I love it. I'm not complaining. I love it because typically I have such a hard time growing zucchinis, and I think it's just that I need to start them a little bit earlier than I typically do because this year they have been bumping. I don't know if you can see it down in here. I don't even think I can see. Oh, there's two of them in here. Okay. There's this one. And there's this one, which I think is even larger. Oh, maybe it's about the same. There's also this one here, which looks like it was half pollinated. Even though it looks like it's been half pollinated, this can still be eaten. If you don't get it now while it's young, it will end up rotting, but otherwise you can just eat it. So might as well, right? I mean, it's not like we are overrun with zucchinis. So that looks like it's it for the zucchinis, although we do have another one over here, a yellow zucchini that is growing. I've got one okra in here. The okra is coming in very slowly, but I think tonight we can probably chop some up and fry it for some dinner tonight, but we shall see. I'm not going to pull any of these tomatoes yet. I'm not sure if you can see in there, but they do need a little bit longer to ripen. And I'm hoping the birds don't get to them because they're still getting in there. I went and tightened everything last night and they still went in, and those two ripest tomatoes in there, they got to last night. My pumpkins are coming along. The stems are starting to dry off. So when this stem dries off, then I can cut that and it will be able to be stored. But we're still gonna let it dry out a little bit longer. These are the ones that are the ripest at the minute. But I do see in here one glowing red cherry chili that we're gonna pull. And we'll start to get these pickled and in some vinegar. I do have another one of these little pumpkins here though. I think I picked, oh, it's not quite dried off yet, is it though? I might let it go a little bit longer to let that dry off. The plant is completely dead. Maybe I should just cut it and we'll just eat it. But this did not grow very large. Now, I want to take this basket over to the peppers. We've got to get in here and harvest some of these beautiful Hungarian wax peppers, and we're going to pickle them later tonight. Well, you're not going to see that until July when I do the pepper month. So but that's what we're doing. We're going to be pickling Hungarian wax peppers, which is similar to banana peppers. So let's get in there and get the heap of them that are growing. But we're getting nice big peppers. Should we pick this onion? The top has fallen over, which means it's not going to grow anymore. So I think maybe, we'll pull this guy up. My biggest onion ever. I hope to see many, many more like this in the future. I found a couple more onions and a few beans to add to our basket. But I think that is a fantastic day's harvest. So I am going to bring this inside and then we're done harvesting for today. Just kidding. I found some tomatillos as well. Okay, now our basket is harvested. So let's head inside for a minute. Good thing I have muscles because this basket is awfully heavy today. As always, things have not gone to plan with getting things done. So yesterday, after I put those herbs into the dehydrator, I didn't really get much accomplished. But today, we're starting early again. I have my tray of plants. We're gonna get these planted straight away today. And then I don't know what will get accomplished after this, but I'm hoping to do this tray and one other tray, or at least half of another tray. So I have a couple different tomatoes that I'm going to be planting into this bed. So there are 12 spaces for tomatoes. I pulled all the other ones yesterday. I bought a 6-pack of tomatoes at the garden center. These are Russian reds, so their leaves are a little bit thicker. They're supposed to be a little bit more cold hardy. So I'm hoping that since we're kind of getting a little bit later into the season, these will last a little bit longer and will still produce further into autumn. Don't mind my sad lettuce I have here. My gosh, they were recently transplanted as well, and they are just not loving being in the sun and the heat like they have been. They're looking a little sad, but they're gonna come back. Actually, the leaves are nicer in the center here where the outside are dead. So they had these leaves when I transplanted them, which have died off, but these new center ones, they'll be fine. So that lettuce will all be fine. It might bolt quickly though, because they're not shaded out by tomatoes and marigolds like I had originally thought they would be. These tomatoes are very small. I hope they really are cold hardy and last into the winter or the autumn, because it's gonna be some time before they put on tomatoes, I think. Then I have 6 others. So these are tomato tomatoes. These are smaller tomatoes. I had been selling these at the market before the holidays, and they've just been sitting in these pots on the deck, and they're really ready to go in the ground. And they went a few days where they didn't get as much water as they should have. So their leaves are kind of curling a little bit down. I'm not sure how they're going to go, but we're gonna put these 6 down in at the far end, and hopefully they'll get us some tomatoes. I just grabbed the hose to water in the plants, and Rocco came out to see me, and look at how good he is, sitting outside the garden gate, not coming in because he knows he's not allowed. Actually, I think it's because I have the hose and he doesn't want to get sprayed. Have you ever met a lab that doesn't want to get wet, go in the water? It's ridiculous. He hates being sprayed with the hose. We have this little pool for him, and he only goes in it when his friends are over. What a weirdo. Next, we're gonna get in here and sort out these cucumbers. Oddly enough, the vines themselves are still very green. Well, not that one. That one's completely dead. But this vine is still green. It's just every single leaf has died on it. So we're gonna pull both of these cucumbers out, and I have 2 more cucumbers to replace them with. Whoopsies. Where's the hole? There we are. There's our cucumbers. Well, who do we have here? Huh? Who do we have here? Somebody who's not supposed to be in the gardens in here? Huh? He's sniffing all the weeds out. It would be nice if you could help me pull them out. Over here on this little pyramid trellis I have, everything's died. These were the pickles that I had over here, and these pickles, they get disease quite quickly, and they are completely done. There's some of them on here that I didn't even pick. they get bitter really quickly. So as soon as they start to get sick, the pickles aren't good anymore, the cucumbers aren't good anymore. So yeah, I haven't picked all of these, but I'm gonna pull these plants, and I have 3 other plants to put here. So I'm just gonna put in a cucumber and 2 tomatoes. That's kind of what I had left in that tray that I can replace here. Again, because I had disease things on here and I'm putting new plants on without doing anything else, they're probably going to get disease themselves, but we'll see. We're at that time of year where the powdery mildew just takes over all of the cucumbers, the squash, the pumpkins, and the tomatoes. So everything starts to get diseased like right in the height of summer. I have to say that covering this area up with the pea straw has really helped heaps in terms of retaining the moisture in here. In this in-ground section, typically it dries out and the water just runs off of it, and I can't get the water to hold and things die very quickly. This year with the mulch, I have been able to get things to actually grow a bit better and get the water to stay in the soil. So things are doing a lot better with this pea straw. So I need to make sure that each year I continue to do this. I did also, around the plants, build up a little bit of a wall so the water would stop from trailing down as well. And I think that helped because it helped the water pool around the roots. While I'm right here, I'm just gonna rummage through these tomatillos to see if there's any that are ripe. There are heaps on the ground that never got pollinated, but when they are fully ripe, they will dry out in their case, but then they'll eventually fall off, and they tend to do that, especially if it's windy, and I just come through and I pick them up. Otherwise, I let them stay on until they do fall off. Oops. Only a couple today, but that's all right. Yesterday we picked up heaps. I was about to get carried away harvesting, but I have one more plant I think I can get into the ground before it gets a little bit too hot. The sun is like burning me already, and it's still early. So I'm gonna get this one in. Have you come over to help me, have you? Just to watch maybe? This is a marjoram. I did have marjoram. It's in a pot. It died because it got a little bit too crispy from the sun and from me not watering it enough. But this is, this actually says enhances the flavor of meats and fish and can be used as a salad dressing. I don't do that. I use this as part of my Italian seasoning that I dehydrate. And this year I haven't been able to harvest any marjoram. So you only use a tiny little bit. So when I make my like Italian seasoning, or just like toss all the herbs into that would be equivalent to a Italian seasoning, I use tons of oregano, but then when I use this, I just take a little pinch and drop it in. This to me tastes like laundry detergent. I know people say that about coriander. Marjoram to me is like that. This one actually doesn't smell like that. Still tastes like it though. This is a perennial, and I wanted to put it, I did have a spot for it over there for my old one, but I didn't end up getting that planted, and then I had flowers that needed planting, so I planted those, and now my space for it is gone. So I guess the next space that I can put it in, that there is space, that I don't mind if it's perennial, is actually behind this structure here that I have random things growing on, tomatoes and cucumbers. So just behind it, in front of the echinacea, I'm gonna plant this. Oh. Never mind. This structure is actually here because we cut down a tree. There was a tree here that was starting to get big. Allie wanted to cut the whole thing down, and I was like, no, save it. I'll cut it as like a bush. It worked really well as a bush, but now that I've turned this all into a garden bed that I want to put all my herbs and flowers and different things in as like a border around the garden. I did not want that bush there anymore. And so he just recently chopped that down. The roots are still in there. It will take a few years for that to kind of start to break down where I can pull it out. So I had this nice structure here. However, where I wanted to plant the marjoram behind it, there is a big root growing back there. So I guess we can't plant it there. Give me a minute to rethink. Okay, I am going to plant it back there. I was able to find a spot where there weren't roots and I was able to dig a nice hole. However, it's not going to be centered, but I guess that's okay. Things don't need to be in line. So we're just gonna plant it back there. I don't want it, because I don't want to plant it too close to the oregano, because its actual leaves look very similar to an oregano. So I don't want to confuse the two. Okay, next I've grabbed my twine. We need to get these zucchinis tied up again because they're all like flopping over. They grow so quick, so quick. So where are we gonna start? I guess over here. There's one over here that needs to be done. I have my clippers. As we do this, we need to trim up the leaves as well, because I noticed that we're starting to get powdery mildew on some of them, and I need to get rid of some of those leaves before it spreads too much. Okay, first I'm gonna start by chopping off some of these fruits that didn't get pollinated. I don't think you have either. None of them have. And then I'm gonna chop off some of these lower leaves and things. These can all go. And I chop them off right until we get to the last fruit. So these, I'm gonna keep these, but there's our fruit here that's growing, so I'll leave that. But we do need to trellis this up quite a bit. I've found if I make a double layer of this twine, it works way better in terms of holding it up. And I pull it quite tight because it's so heavy. I pull it very tight on the thing, and I put it right in one of the grooves of these T-posts, so I'm not actually squeezing the plant too much. And actually as it gets, well, maybe a little bit, but they grow just fine like this. And then I double knot it. Ah, it's loosening up on me. This one's not looking so good. Below the thing, below the fruit. Oops. Below the fruit. Below the fruit. And at the fruit, but we're gonna cut it anyways. So this will help to clear things out of here a little bit. But the great thing about zucchinis is that you can cut heaps of leaves off and they'll be fine. Okay, we'll go to the center here. You can already see some of these leaves are very covered in powdery mildew. Wow. Okay, we need to bring this way up. We'll first start by doing this to cut off some of these lower ones. This is the Costata Romanesco, and the Costata Romanesco grows massive. Although it's never grown this massive for me, but it definitely is this year. And I'm seeing all these little bugs in here. I'm just trying to grab a leaf off of a pepper and squash them. Like there. I saw another one. Little baby, tiny one. I don't know. But this plant is covered with those green shield bugs, or babies of those green shield bugs. So I've just been trying to squash them as I see them. Some of these larger zucchinis, I'm putting through the holes in these T-posts just to give them a little bit so it doesn't slide down. All the ones, what I say, below the fruit can go. Which means we're taking a lot of them. Here we go. Oh, did I only leave? Ah, well, there really aren't that many on that one, are there? Okay. Now the issue here is that we still have all of these leaves there. That's because we have another vine growing in there somewhere that I need to get out. If I take this leaf out, and this leaf out, oops, going right. And there's another one here that I'd cut. Can you guys see in there? And you can kind of see that we have a whole second vine in there, and there's actually fruit growing on it. But I need to clear it out a bit. This one out. Where does it even go? Gosh. And the last one we have in here is this big, massive, productive one. I think we need to start by getting some of these leaves out of here first, though. They're crowding my peppers. So there are my zucchinis all trimmed and tied up. I am scorching in this sun right now. There are a few more things that I want to harvest, and then we're gonna have to call it a day. I'm gonna get in here and pick some of the sun golds that are ripe and ready to come off. Got these two in here. I'm dying to pick them, mainly because I see them turning red and I'm just like dying to get my hands on them. But I'm also concerned about the birds or whatever has been getting in there. I feel like every time I think I'll just leave it another day, I come back the next day and the birds have gotten to it. I'm making the decision to leave it at least until tonight. I'll check on it again. However, I did grab a couple of these smaller peppers that are starting to change color, and we can eat those for dinner tonight. And I've got my Padron peppers in here. I have never eaten these before, but they look like this, and we're gonna blister a bunch of these for dinner tonight. I don't really need the scissors for these. They just kind of pop right off. Oops. This one is starting to turn color. They are typically eaten green, I believe, but obviously we didn't get in here quick enough for some of them. I'm just gonna pick this plant up because it's tipped over. Just see if we can, what else we've got. If there's other big ones in here we can grab. Got these. Oh man, what's going on here? What's happened to you? You were the one, this is the one that had my first eggplant on it. We'll chop this off and see. I think it's a bit rotten. It is. So I don't know if that is because I waited too long to pick it, or if because the plant died. Oh, my first eggplant. We're gonna have to chuck it. That is sad, actually. My first eggplant of the season. The plant is also not looking good at all, and there's no real reason for it. There aren't a ton of pests on it. There aren't any more pests on it than there are on the other ones. It's just the only one around it that has just, all the leaves have just wilted. So I don't know. But we do have a handful of other eggplants that are in there that are starting to grow, so I'm not going to complain yet. But I think that is it for today. We've got our little harvest here. We were able to get a few small projects done in the garden over the past couple days. And there are bigger projects that definitely need addressing, but we are not doing them now. We're just doing these small jobs, and there's so much that I need to be cooking up in the kitchen right now that any big projects just are put to the side. But that is it for today, guys. I will catch you in next week's video. See ya.